Welcome back, Shalligators. Welcome back to Evil Week. Oh, today. We're going to talk about a sin that I love. But you know what? I'm realizing I start every single Evil Week video off with that. This is a sin that I love. I love this sin. Do you love this sin? This is my favorite sin. You know why? Because I'm a sinner. It's funny, you guys have been giving me the feedback. You're like, please make Evil Week more than once a year. Please make it the entire year. Please make this just the evil channel. And you know what? I've honestly thought about it. I thought about just going full evil. But we'll talk about that more in our upcoming video on envy and what to do if you've been canceled. But today we're going to talk about wrath. Now, I was kind of saving this video towards the end of Evil Week because I felt it was very important for us to get a primer for other evil things, namely the video on how to let go of the nice girl mentality. You have to be the nice girl, and I'm a good girl. I only say that in bed. Ooh, I'm a good girl. No, I'm a bad girl. I don't pretend to be a good girl. Well, I'm a good woman, but I'm a bad girl. And so are you. But I wanted you guys to infuse yourself and imbue your spirit with basically wickedness. Because war is strategy. War is strategy, right? And forewarned is forearmed. And in so many Evil Week videos this year, I realized that we kind of kept coming back around to the concept of patience and waiting out your enemy, waiting out seduction, waiting out the dude at the office you need to fuck to get ahead, because it really is central to not just war and not just evil, but almost everything in our life we want to achieve. One of my best friends, Lizzie, hello, my lover, if you're watching, she just bought a house. She lives in New Orleans and she's moving, and she's lived in her previous place for like 10 years or something like that. So this is her first house that she's buying, and she can't find like a plumber, an electrician, a guy to paint it. And she's like tearing her hair out. And she's like, I feel like this is never going to end. I'm like, it will, but not on your timeline, right? Not on the timeline that you have decided it should be. Think about anything in life that's worth doing. It doesn't happen when you want it to. Do you think anyone wants to be pregnant for 9 months? I think like 3 or 4 months and everyone's good to go, right? Maybe 6. Do you want college to take 4 years? Do you want that flight to Spain to take 10 hours? No, you want to snap your fingers and have something. But we, in those other categories, recognize, well, hey, that's just as long as it's going to take. Why are we so different when it comes to something like war or seduction? No, I want it now. We're suddenly all Veruca Salt. And it fucks us, right? It absolutely fucks us. What if we had that mentality on a plane? Why aren't we there yet? I want to be in Sevilla right now. Open the pilot's door. You'd get off the plane pretty quick, but you'd get off in Amarillo, Texas, and get hauled away by the Rangers. Like, it would not go well for you. We exercise patience in these other categories, and maybe because we have to be so patient in so many other categories, we just like blow a fuse in war and seduction. But I think it's more about emotion, right? We don't have a particular emotional gravity to, I mean, we do about like going to college and whatever and flying on a plane. But it's more diffuse, right? When we're in a war state, it's like there's a reason, if you've ever experienced it, you understand the phrase blinded by rage. When I get really angry, like my vision starts to blur. It's like I get so hot. It's like my brain starts to cook. It's like I get a instant micro fever. I'm probably 110 degrees. I'm just like shooting fire out of my fingertips, and I literally can't see. And so when you're in that state, it's really hard to make good rational decisions. But that's why we have this video. This is sort of a pep talk about patience. Because if you can't exercise that, you're going to lose. Now, this video is about outlasting your enemy. And we've done videos in past Evil Weeks, how to defeat an enemy, strategies from the art of war, things like that. But we don't talk about outlasting because sometimes, actually, a lot of times, that is not only your best option, sometimes it's your only option. And is it not? You almost lack words for how frustrating that is. How frustrating it is. I get it. I've been there. So that's what we're going to discuss. How to embrace the concept of patience in war and why. This isn't a dressed up, choose kindness, let it go. No, that's not what this is. This is strategy. I play the long game in almost every one of my battles, right? And recently I came across a phrase by this woman, Evie Pompouras. I think I'm saying her name right. She wrote this book called Becoming Bulletproof. She's like an ex-Secret Service agent. She is such a badass, just such a badass. I read her book. I actually liked it okay. It was like 7 out of 10, but I think you'll actually really like it. But she said something on her social media the other day that said, if it feels good, don't do it. And I was like, what? But I mean, think about it. It's true. When we react in the moment to do just like what feels good, oh, this feels good. We're making out with our friend's boyfriend. We're ordering the queso. We're punching that goddamn CVS pharmacist, right? We're just reactive. Who behaves like that? Criminals and animals. We are neither. I mean, we might act criminally, but we will not catch a case. No, I will prevent that from happening. We're a little bit more subtle, right? And we're certainly not animals, right? It's one thing if we're fighting another animal, and that's just the law of the jungle. We're not. If we're engaging with people who do have a modicum of patience, brother, we got to match that and beat them at their own game. So I have tried to employ that as like my new motto, even in the last few days. If it feels good, don't do it. Whether it's asking the guy out, calling 10 times, don't do it. You have to have a larger strategy that you're following. If we look at this in other categories of our lives, it's called goals. You know, it's like, okay, I'm not going to order the queso. My larger goal is to look good on the Bachelorette to Miami. Okay. We know this in other categories. We do this in other categories. But again, when it comes to war and our enemies, suddenly we think, no, I just have to react. Now, you might be saying, Shallon, I've heard you say in the past that if someone attacks you, your response should be so overwhelming, so bananas, and this is from Sun Tzu, Art of War, that they're afraid to ever attack you again. I believe that this is true. I do this. However, that reaction isn't always immediate. That reaction usually comes after a lot of non-reaction, right? Sometimes an immediate, swift, overwhelming reaction absolutely is the course of action, but not always. Sometimes that's simply not effective. A lot of times what our enemy wants simply is our attention, you know? We'll talk about this more in the cancel video, but that's what my enemies wanted in that snare. They wanted my attention. They wanted to engage with me. They wanted me to react. I never did. I never reacted directly to anyone. I mean, I don't even know who they are. It's like, you know, and that galled them. And they kept making video after video and saying shit, and you draw your enemy out, and eventually they're going to do something dumb. They're going to get sloppy. They're going to get manic. They're going to get desperate to get a reaction out of you, and you're just giving them all the rope they need to hang themselves, basically. This is a classic war strategy. We see this from everyone from Sun Tzu to Mao Zedong to George Washington to Napoleon Bonaparte and Julius Caesar. And Shallon Lester. And you. This is a classic way to exhaust our enemy mentally. But I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. I feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, right? I was just saying, like, you know, sometimes the over-the-top bananas reaction is the way to victory. But before you can understand what is the best route to victory, what is victory? Well, I win. What is win? You have to define the terms. I did debate in college. It was so fun. I just love arguing. But that was like the fundamental part of debate is you define the terms. You go to a lawyer, you look at any contract. What is the work? Who is the client? What is success? What is completed? What do all these things mean? You have to define the term. Use that as a template for your war strategy. What does victory mean to you? Because, you know, you guys know what I love. Revenge. But is revenge a blanket term, or does it actually mean something different to everyone? So when I wore my revenge necklace, and by the way, this is the new collection with Vault NYC. You guys probably have my old revenge necklace. That was our previous drop. This is a new one. It says Alpha. We also have one that says Ruthless. Actually, Ruthless comes in gold and silver. It's already half sold out, so definitely move fast on these. They're a great gift. They're going to ship out this weekend. Great gift for you, for anybody in your life who just needs a little... But I like Alpha because it's less sinister than Ruthless or Revenge, but I believe it still gets the point across because we are all such alpha females over here. Should I make one that says Beta and you guys can give it to your exes? Can you imagine? Or just one that says Cuck? I used that term on a video one time. I called someone a cuck and they're like, that's really insulting. I'm like, it's meant to be. Thank you for getting the memo. Glad we're on the same page. Like, wait, is this all it? I didn't know that. Anyway. So when I wear my revenge necklace, you know, people see it and they're like, oh, is that about a guy? I'm like, no, it's not. It's about my career. The etymology and the origin of my revenge is like before I moved to New York City when I was 22, a waitress in California, I told people I was moving to New York to like pursue my dreams of writing. And my boss at the restaurant I was working at, R&D Kitchen in Fashion Island, his name was, I think, CJ or TJ, something dumb. He's like, you're going to sink like a stone. You're going to be back here in 3 months begging for your job back. When I got to New York, I ordered a necklace that said custom made revenge on Etsy. And that's what fueled me. That I defined revenge, not as like breaking his kneecaps in a parking lot, although I would not have turned it down. But to me, revenge was proving him wrong, making it. No one's going to drive me out of New York. No one is going to stand in the way of me becoming an author. And guess who got the first copy of my first book? He did. Anyway, actually, no, my high school English teacher, Mrs. Conroy at University High did, because she pulled me aside one day after class and told me I was a very bad writer. So she got the first copy. Hi, Mrs. C. So you got to define, what does revenge and victory mean for you? And we want to define it, like our emotions want to define it as just like hurting them. I want to get them back for what they did. Sometimes revenge is a kamikaze mission. It's a suicide mission, you know? So much of the time, hurting someone means we immolate ourselves in the process. We go up in flames too, right? And it's so frustrating. I mean, there's even that old adage, I don't know if it was Confucius or Gandhi, but they're like, when you pursue revenge, you basically dig 2 graves. I'm like, well, you know what? Fine. I will dig 2 graves. Sometimes we don't fucking care. We're willing to go down with that ship too. I get it. But sometimes we have to define victory. What does it mean? And when I was like going through getting canceled and everything, and I'm sorry I keep referencing that, but it ties into all of this, you know? And the cancel video is going to be more instructive, like if it's happening to you. But when I was getting canceled, I was listening to a lot of Joel Osteen podcasts to try to like keep my mood up and keep on keeping on, because it's a very difficult, painful, confusing, isolating thing. It's awful. It's awful. And it's meant to be awful. You know, like they're trying to break you into submission. Good luck. Like, I'm not a real submissive person. I don't know why strangers on the internet would assume that I crave their approval so much okay. But a Joel Osteen podcast came on called Outlasting the Enemy, or Outlasting Your Opponent, because he doesn't say enemy. Maybe he does. But I realized that's what I was trying to do, you know, because I'm vengeful and I'm warlike and I'm like, how am I going to react? What am I going to do? And I heard that message, and it truly was, it did feel like it came from a higher power. It's like, this is what you're meant to do. You're meant to outlast. You're meant to beat these people in the long game. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, it's not a satisfying thing in the moment. But what do we say about the moment? If it feels good, don't do it. This might not actually further your goals. That's for animals, and that's for criminals. That's for people with very low intelligence who just don't know how to do anything but just like, react. That's not us. That's why we're dangerous. Because we're patient. You ever watch a horror movie? The villain, when he's stalking like the teen girl running, she's running and all over the place. What is he doing? He's walking. He's walking. And isn't that the scariest thing of all? Villains in Disney movies, they talk slow. They talk low. They're not shrieking. No, That's for their like weird sidekick who always ends up going down in flames, right? The true villain's like, Maleficent isn't shrill. No. So that tells me that slowing it down and employing patience is truly the most frightening thing of all to your enemies, especially if they're an enemy who wants your attention, like we said. But even if they're not, if they're a coworker who's leapfrogging over you, this is difficult to think like, I have to put faith in the process, in life, in a higher power, in whatever, in God. We can just use the word God, however you want to define a higher power, fate, the universe, whatever. God's less syllables. God doesn't always solve our battles for us right away. He doesn't always come in with this sword of justice, you know? It can take a long time. God is sometimes giving us the opportunity to prove our faith and our patience and our grit. I had said in another video that I did that I think it came up in another podcast of Joel Osteen's, like, if we pray to be brave, God doesn't give us bravery. God gives us an opportunity to demonstrate that we can handle something. God gives us the burning building to run into to save the kid. He doesn't give us the bravery. He gives us the opportunity to create that within ourselves and prove it to ourselves. Well, that's annoying. I know. Like, you couldn't just give me the brave. No, the building's got to be on fire. Okay, it looks like we're going to do things the hard way. Yeah, we are. We are. But we're not afraid of the hard way. We're women used to the hard way. We go after the hard things all the time. We go after the hard goals, the hard upsets. We say, no, my boundaries say this. No, that actually isn't cool with me. We're not afraid of anything. And we are the least afraid of patience. Even though patience, when you really look at it, it's kind of the scariest thing of all. I'm really nervous to go to this party. There's going to be so much good food. How am I going to resist it? I'm going to be patient with myself. I'm going to know that these cravings are going to pass. I'm going to know that I'm not going to die if I don't eat 2 fistfuls of Reese's Pieces. I know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be patient with the outcome. That just because I resist this food today doesn't mean I'm going to go home and suddenly have a 6-pack. I'm not afraid of that. I do patient things all the time. I got that degree. I worked out. I repaired that relationship. I grew my hair out. I make my bed every day. I'm not afraid. The enemy should be afraid of me. Because everything in my life says, I will outlast you. Like I've outlasted everything else. Mostly my fear, my laziness. I've outlasted all that shit. You think I can't outlast your bitch ass? Come on. So let's say you're having a problem at work, right? You're thinking, okay, if I outlast this chick who's like gunning for my position and talking trash about me and throwing me under the bus. Think bigger. It's not necessarily like I have to outlast her in this position. Maybe it's I have to outlast this situation in general. While I'm on monster.com and I'm putting my resume out there and I'm applying, instead of going in, kicking over my boss's table, because that feels good right now, and storming out and feeling good for about 15 seconds in the elevator, and then I realize my credit card's due in a week. I haven't paid my rent this month. You have just played yourself, right? You are strategic though, and you're going to wind it back and you're like, okay, what does outlast mean to me? What is victory? Victory? Yeah, it's fucking over Kim in accounting. I fucking hate her. But that's a victory that's very finite. And really, what does that victory do for me? At the end of the day, does destroying her put money in my bank? Does it get me laid? Does it get me paid? This is what I realized with my enemies when I was getting canceled. My reaction doesn't do anything for me. Nothing for me. Don't get me laid. Don't get me paid, honey. Maybe you could say that had I engaged in some bizarre war of words with people who are so intellectually inferior that would have like gotten me clicks. You know what? I don't care about clicks. I don't care about views or even money above my own integrity. And integrity is defined as like, I have a brand. Like I have a personal human being mission statement about myself, who I know myself to be. And I won't breach that for anything. Certainly not to engage with someone who's not worth my time and on my level. Like, why would I do that? So I redefined victory. I've redefined success as I outlast these people. And like, I will outlast them in the long run because I have a brand. I have a product. I don't just have viewers. I have fans. I have shalligators. I love you guys. We go on trips together. We hang out. It's so much fun. Like these people, what do they have? They have views, but like, okay, I don't know. It's like a car crash versus a Chanel store. It's like people come to Chanel and they buy it and they love it and they talk about it. A lot more people would probably watch a car crash, but like, where do you go after that? I don't know. It just seems like a very short-sighted strategy, and I'm all about strategy. I would have gotten where I am and made this career a career if I didn't. And same with you. Do you think you would be where you are if you didn't already employ strategy? Baby girl, you're already doing this. Don't look at outlasting your enemy. It's like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do this. You are doing it. You're doing it in every other category of your life. Look around at how you've already fucking crushed patience. How you have bodied father time. You're not afraid of this, actually. This might be new territory. This might be an added challenge. What's the happiness? The root of happiness. I'm sorry. What's the root of happiness? It's grit, right? Man does not yearn for a tensionless state, as the Stoics say. He yearns for opportunities to prove himself, right? And maybe that's why God does that for us. Instead of just giving us the bravery, instead of giving us the victory, he gives us the opportunity to do that for ourselves so that we get this thought of, I can do this. It might not be super easy, but I proved to myself that I can do this. All right. Grit is not, I never fall down. Grit is, I fall down and I get back up again. Meaner than ever. There's a reason that my tagline this year for Evil Week is, what didn't kill me should have tried harder. Between the sickness, the cancellation, all that stuff this year, like, that's all you got? I'm still here, baby. And now I'm not afraid of anything. Yikes. Another phrase I want you guys to learn is by Viktor Frankl. He's this Austrian neuroscientist. I think he was a Holocaust survivor. Is that right? I'm sorry. I know I should have Googled. I'm sorry. But, okay. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Okay, what does this mean? This seems very whatever. I had actually read this phrase for the first time as attributed, I think, to Marcus Aurelius. It was like a Stoicism quote. Maybe Marcus Aurelius said something different. Whatever. Let's go back to this quote. Between stimulus, so someone attacking you, and response, your reaction, there's a space. Your job is to make that space as long as possible, as big as you can. Between getting attacked and responding, your job is to make that space big. Now, wait a minute. There's exceptions to this. There are. If you have a guy, I talked to one of you Shalligators the other day. You sent me a message. If you have a question you want to connect with me with, send it to, go to shallonlester.com, click, submit a question, and we can talk one-on-one. But I love this question because she's like, I don't love this happening to her. She's like, I'm a lawyer, and there's this guy at my work, and he threw me under the bus about this project that was 100% his fault. Like, not at all mine. And I'm just like I'm just seething about him. And I was like, I think the best course of action in situations like this is to react immediately, like in that meeting. Excuse me, Gary, I didn't work on that portion of the project. You did. And the reason it got tossed out of court is because of your malfeasance, not mine. So try that again. And I said to her, sometimes the room between stimulus and response just gives us time to stew. And we get too emotional, and then we go that rage blind, and we're not making good, healthy decisions, right? So there is definitely a time to react right away, but that also takes patience, but pre-patience. You need to come up with your own personal set of deal breakers. This is what I told her. Like, there's some things that don't bother us. Like, for me, dirty jokes at work, I never fucking cared. Like, someone could slap me on the ass. Like, I just didn't care. Like, that never rankled me. For some people, that's a deal breaker, and that's completely valid. For me, taking credit for my work, throwing me under the bus, hell fucking no. No. And I would call people out right in that meeting. And I wanted to do it in public, and I wanted to do it swiftly, because it's like you bop a dog on the nose. Don't you do that. You can't punish a dog 2 hours after they did something. They're going to be like, what the hell is this for? They don't get it. They can't bridge that gap. Human men are not so different than dogs. So I'm a big believer in reaction then. But I took the time to make a list of my deal breakers. This is all right for me. If this happens, I've already pre-decided, using my patience, to just let it go. Just shake it off. Other things, no. I have already predetermined my response. Someone throws me under the bus, takes credit, boom. This is direct in the moment. I already have a script written now. I'm serious. I had like a notebook and I wrote these things down. That's not silly to do. Don't you think a general makes a battle plan, sketches and whatever? Even football. They're using all this chalk and running plays. I don't even know what they're doing. Why aren't you doing this? Why? You know who's doing this? Men. Men do this. And men get to run the world. Yeah, exactly. Do you think that's correlative? I think it might be. Weird. So you got to do this too. But let's go back to this Viktor Frankl quote. Between stimulus and response is space. Make that space big. Because you might need to go through the emotional ups and downs. You might need to get mad and seethe and cry and feel humiliated. That's okay. Allow yourself that time if that's how you feel. When I'm like in a really bad place, like broken up with or something, I put in my phone, cry o'clock. Oh, it's cry o'clock. And I get in bed for 20 minutes and I'm like, ah, and I just wallow. It's like 20 minutes of wallow time. And then the alarm goes off again. I'm like, okay. And I go back out there. You know, we are allowed to feel what we feel, but then we get back up because that's grit and that's the foundation of happiness and confidence. Yeah, I cried, but I got out of bed and I finished my day and I did my work. I can be both of these things. I can feel, but I know it's not going to tow me under forever. It's actually not going to kill me. It should have tried harder. So use that time. If you know yourself, and we need to know ourselves, know your weaknesses, know your emotional trauma trajectory. Like, what is your response when the going gets tough? Feel what you feel, get back up, and then get to work with strategy. How can I outlast the enemy? Well, we said at the beginning of the video, we're talking about emotional exhaustion, right? Draw the enemy out. Draw the enemy out. What does that imply? They're moving towards you. You're not moving towards them. You're not going to their battle camp and torching it. You're drawing them out to you, out in the open, out where they're vulnerable. How does this manifest in real life? Okay, let's go back to the work example. Gary, I was not primary on this project, and you know it. You were primary on this project. You were in charge of X, Y, and Z that went belly up. Do not blame this on me. That can be considered drawing the enemy out. Why? Now Gary has to answer for his fat ass, right? He's got to say something. Everyone's going to look at him in the room. Is that true, Gary? You were primary on this project? Whoa, gravy in his voice. Let him explain himself. Sometimes drawing someone out means forcing them to engage in logic. I've posted and shared with you guys my feelings on the vaccine mandate. I am not anti-vax. If you want the vaccine, get it, girl. Like, get it. If it makes you happy, get it. I would never tell someone not to get it. I would never tell someone what to do with their body in general, unless it's wearing high-waisted jeans. They're not flattering. Please just trust me on this. You're going to look back and you're going to know that I'm right. I digress. But I am anti-mandate, right? These are legally disavowed vaccines. There is no one to hold legally accountable to. Did you know that? All three companies are, I know that there's other ones like AstraZeneca and stuff who've made them. They're not legally responsible for anything that happens with these vaccines. So the fact that they're trying to make them legally enforced, that you have to get it, even though there's no legal liability, that's crazy to me. And I've had I can't even call them debates because the people I'm debating devolve into anger and tears almost instantaneously. And I'm talking about people very close to me when I say, if the vaccine works, why are the unvaccinated such a threat? If the vaccine is legally disavowed, how can you possibly say everyone has to have it? How does that make sense? How is that safe? If your whole thing is safety, how is that considered safe? How does this work? And they have no answer. I've drawn them out. They have no answer. And they instantly mentally exhaust themselves. They're like, you know what? I don't even want to talk about this. I fucking bet you don't, because you don't have an answer. I've been waiting for an answer to these questions for a year and a half. All of us on this side of the anti-mandate fence have. Have yet to hear anything that makes sense. I hear an enemy, they're not my enemy, but you know, imploding. I hear me outlasting. I drew them out into this sort of wide open, uncovered space of logic that they can't defend, and they absolutely melt down. This is what you want from your enemy, okay? You want to get them frustrated, bored, desperate. They fuck up, they do something stupid, and you got them. This can happen at work. You just keep on keeping on, producing good work. They're going to try so hard to destroy you. They're going to look ridiculous in the process. Let's take this out of the work context into something social. Mean Girls. Mean Girls. I've done a lot of videos on Mean Girls. I have an entire playlist on them. Please check it out. It's really going to be helpful. But this is the thing with Mean Girls. Like, if they don't like you and they're talking shit about you, it's because part of them sees you as a threat. Let's say it's your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. She's crazy as a sack of weasels, right? What do you do to combat her? You could confront her. You could beat her up. Like, you could do that. Or you could just let her devolve. We talked about this in our summertime Evil Week about how to break up a happy couple. Only we're not talking about someone's ex. We're talking about someone's girlfriend. You're the side chick. You're wanting to move. Maybe you don't even care about dating him. You just want to break him up because fuck it, it's Evil Week, right? And I gave you the advice, like, you do nothing. You do nothing. You're like sweet and innocent, and you let her absolutely implode. You're going to make her so crazy. She's going to look like the bad guy. She's going to be attacking you and paranoid and nagging. And he's going to be like, what is wrong with you, Caitlin? Jesus, she's not doing anything. Like, we're texting about dog treats. Like, what is it? You just draw that enemy out by waiting them out. Because again, if someone wants your intention, if someone wants your engagement, they want to feel like a worthy adversary. Come fight me. I'm not going to fight you. My God, it's like fighting a toddler or a armadillo. Why did I do that? They're going to get so desperate that they're going to come up with crazy rumors, outrageous accusations. And maybe at the beginning of all this, they had a leg to stand on. They had some things that were right. Oh, she is a bitch. She is a slut. Blah, blah, blah. But they're going to go so over the top with it. People are going to be like, Caitlin, Jesus. All right, just, you're getting like obsessed with her. Like, you will not shut up about this chick. She's going to dig her own grave. Again, you're just going to give people enough rope to hang themselves. Silence is your best weapon. A fool is known for his words. A wise man is known for his silence. It's an old Stoicism philosophy that I go back to. And I also hate because I'm a big blabbermouth and I like to talk. I want to talk my enemies to death. But I don't. I don't say everything I feel. Even when I could, we're just going to let them get sloppy. It's going to be frustrating, right? It's going to take patience. This might be the hardest thing you ever do. It might be, girl. And I want you to prepare yourself for that. I want you to tell yourself that. Lead with that. This is going to be the hardest fucking thing I ever do. Okay? Now you're prepared. Now, when you're like, I can't believe she posted that. I can't believe she posted that. I can't believe she posted that. Okay? You're going to go back to a few things. You're going to go back to your definition of victory. What is it? What is your definition of victory? And it's valid for whatever you say it is, right? This is your show. And you're going to go back to just waiting it out. Let them get sloppy because they do. They mess up. I'm not saying you have to wait for like karma and God's wrath to take effect. I mean, that would be great if we could all completely rely on that. Like, oh, karma's going to get them. Not always. But usually people get themselves. Especially against women like us. If you're a shalligator, you're on this channel, you're a bad bitch. I mean, you are. Perky tits, glossy lips, head full of knowledge, body for sin. You are ready for action. I understand why people hate me. I'd hate me too. I'd hate all y'all if we weren't all best friends, right? People look at us and they cannot stand that women like us exist. They can't. I represent the hot, smart chick. That's who we all are. We are the hot, smart, strategic, bold, badass women. We are fucking warlords, okay? And we're not for everyone. It's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. So I get it. But the reaction we provoke in others usually is based on jealousy, their own ego deficiency, and that makes people Exactly what we were talking about in the beginning of the video. Blind with rage, emotional, reactive, animalistic, criminal, stupid, clumsy. The opposite of us. So we don't need to wait for Jesus' sword of fire and vengeance. We don't need to wait for karma to turn them into an earthworm. We don't need to. We just need to wait for that tipping point and get them so mad. And what makes someone madder than silence? I mean, think about if you've ever sent like the texts to a guy, like just the long, and he's never responded. Has that ever happened? I mean, it's awful. It's awful. Being ghosted is awful because it raises so many more questions than it answers. You feel so insignificant. And a lot of people I know, after they send that chunky text and they don't get a response, well, they follow it up. They just keep going, right? Because it's like, I don't care what he has to say. I just need him to say something. I just need him to react. And when they don't, you're like, how could he be so cruel to me? I've experienced this. I've watched my friends experience this. And I filed it away in my evil back pocket, right? I have two sides. There's good and then there's evil. And I file away trespasses as like, I could use this. This is a great weapon. Yeah, someone else got shot with it, but I bet I could take it and use it to shoot somebody else. I like this. This tells me that to deny someone the thing they want most is cruelty itself. I mean, is it not? What would you call someone who won't give a starving man food, won't take in someone needing shelter? Cruel. Oh, inhumane. Oh. But we can use that to our advantage. When our enemy wants our attention, employ that cruelty. Oh, dispatch it like a bomb dropping from a plane. To deny them the thing they want most is evil itself. So do it. Ugh, it's going to hurt you. But when it does, go back and think, I am being so cruel to them. This is the meanest thing I could possibly do. And let that fill you with peace. The peace of peak evil. The peace of revenge. You know? You might be thinking, well, it wouldn't feel as good as like firebombing their house. Maybe. You can try it. I don't know. But we got to define victory. We've got to play the long game. We have to protect our reputation, our brand, our career, our everything. We have to do this. And very rarely is what we feel like doing in the moment going to ultimately further that goal. I know it's not fair. I know it's not fair you're in this position in the first place. But you could bitch about how unfair something is. You can be like, all right, it's unfair. Fuck it. I'm going to learn the rules of the game and I'm learning to win. Okay? That's grit. That's an alpha. That's a beast. That's a legend. That's a fucking warlord. And that's what you are. I want to know your stories of outlasting the enemy. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. How cold was that dish? What kind of platter was it on? What happened? How did you outlast the enemy? When I go back to my bullshit manager at that restaurant, I could have freaked out and cried, you're wrong. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show all of you. I didn't. I was just like, okay. And I just used that. I took the rage that I felt at the time and instead of just spewing it outward, I pushed it down in a good way. I pushed it into the very core of my DNA. I pushed it into my cells themselves. And I thought, this has changed who I am like I'm Wolverine and X-Men. This has transformed me. And now every fiber of my being is oriented to proving that fat fuck wrong. And every time I want to stop, every time the going gets tough, I tap into who I have now become. I go back to that feeling in that restaurant. I go back to that rage, that fire, and I let that fire restart my spark. And I keep going. Some people are motivated by love. Some people are motivated by kindness. Some people are motivated by fear and guilt and hellfire. I'm motivated by anger. And I hate it when people say, like, Anger is just hurt. Not for me. I wasn't hurt when he said that. I was angry. If I was hurt, that would mean, oh my gosh, I think he's right. I knew he was wrong. And I was livid that any part of me even implied that I was going to fail. I was livid that there was someone out there who had the audacity to bet against me. I was going to prove them wrong. Anger is the antidote to depression. It really is. So if you're feeling stagnant and depressed, get mad. Get good and mad. Don't turn that anger inward. Don't beat yourself up. Beat up the rest of the world. Show them who they're messing with. Show them that what didn't kill you should have tried harder. We're going to be back tomorrow for the delicious continuation of Evil Week. I will see you later, Shalligators. Like I said, go ahead and shop the Alpha Necklace. If you have a question you want to talk to me about, go to shallonlester.com and click submit. And I'll get back to you ASAP. See you later, babies.